Welcome back. So now that we're into the summer, I'm looking at some of my old videos from back, say, 5 years ago. So 2 moves ago. Not from this house, not from the house prior, but from the townhouse prior. And some of those videos and looking at it and saying, I need to do a new version of that. And the first video that I saw that came to mind with was Ray Bourque's career. Career videos I've been doing for apparently over 5 years. And Ray Bourque's is one that it makes sense that I would do that early, but I wanted to redo it because looking at that board and that video, I'm like, there's a lot more to it than just that. So he was a number 8 pick in 1979. A stacked draft in that the draft age dropped from 19 to 18. Thank you, Ken Lensman. And so, yeah, Bourque gets drafted. And if you look through that draft, a lot of Hall of Famers in that draft. Now, Ray Bourque, in 80 games in that first year, 17 goals, 48 assists, 65 points. And so you could tell Boston got a steal at number 8. Again, it's a stacked draft, but at number 8, Bourque was an absolute steal. In the playoffs, 10 games, 2 goals, 9 assists, 11 points. He wins the Calder. He's fourth in Norris voting, and he's on the first team. He's a first-team All-Star. So, yeah, absolutely right out of the gate. Everybody sees how good Bourque is, and he was really a huge part of this team for a long time after. 80-81, plays 67 games, 27 goals, 29 assists, 56 points. He then recorded an assist in 3 playoff games as Boston got upset in the first round that year. He plays in the All-Star game. You're going to hear a lot of that. Second team All-Star and fourth in Norris voting again. So he's top 5 in Norris voting both of his first 2 seasons in the NHL. No sophomore jinx for him. 81-82, he plays 65 games, 17 goals, 49 assists, 66 points. In the playoffs, he adds a goal and 5 assists for 6 points in 9 games. All-Star game, yes. First team All-Star, absolutely. Second in Norris voting, yep. So he's been top 4 in Norris voting twice, and now he's number 2. 82-83, plays 65 games again. So that's 2 seasons in a row he misses 15 games after missing 13 the year before. So that might be the one question mark with Bourque after the first 4 years is he going to play a full season? He would, but, you could see that question after that. 22 goals, 51 assists, 73 points. In the playoffs, 17 games, 8 goals, 15 assists, 23 points. Excellent production for defensemen. All-Star game, yes. Second team All-Star, yes. Third in Norris voting, absolutely. 83-84, he plays 78 games, so only missed 2 games that year. 31 goals, which would be a career high. 65 assists, which is 9th overall in the NHL that year. 96 points. So, fantastic year for Bourque. And again, still good in his own zone. He was not a slacker when it came to the defensive side of the game. In the playoffs, he adds 2 assists in 3 games. 83-84, I think that was the year they got swept by Montreal in the first round. They played Montreal a lot in the 80s in the playoffs. All-Star game, yep, first team All-Star, absolutely. He's 3rd in Norris voting. He's 5th in Hart voting. So defenseman, he's 5th in Hart voting, and there you go. 84-85, 73 games played, 20 goals. So that's 4 out of 5 seasons he's had 20 or more goals. 66 assists, which is 8th in the NHL, and 86 points. He adds 3 assists in 5 playoff games. All-Star game, yep. First team All-Star, absolutely. Second in Norris voting, yep. 5th in Hart voting again, yes. So top 5 in Hart voting 2 years in a row. Then we get to 85-86, 74 games, 19 goals, so that close to another 20-goal season. 58 assists, 77 points. In the playoffs, no points in 3 games. Again, Montreal. All-Star game, yes. Second team All-Star, absolutely. 4th in Norris voting, yep. And 10th in Hart voting, yep. So Ray Bourque, an absolute megastar at this point. Could he be argued as a Hall of Famer? Not yet, but we're going to get there. 86-87, 78 games, 23 goals, 72 assists, which is 2nd in the NHL. 95 points, which is 9th in the NHL. The only time he's top 10 in scoring in the league. 4 games in the playoffs, 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points. First team All-Star, yep. Norris Trophy, he wins it that year. He was 2nd in Hart voting. So this close to a Hart and a Norris Trophy. 8th in Lady Byng voting. That's the one where he's 8th. Lady Byng, that's the only time he was top 10 in Lady Byng voting in the National Hockey League, which, of course, is for gentlemanly play, which he was good at during his game, too. He was not a dirty player. 87-88, 78 games, again. 17 goals, 64 assists, which is 10th in the NHL, 81 points. In the playoffs, he plays 23 games, has 3 goals, 18 assists, 21 points. All-Star game, yep. Norris Trophy, absolutely. First team All-Star, yep. And 8th in Hart voting. So again, one of the best defensemen in the league. No argument about that. Back-to-back Norris trophies. I'll go ahead and say in 87, 88, that's where we're looking at a Hall of Fame career. That's where he becomes that Hall of Fame player. 88, 89, he only played 60 games that year because of injury. 18 goals, 43 assists, 61 points. In the playoffs, he had 4 assists in 10 games. All-Star game, yes. Second team All-Star, yes. 4th in Norris voting, absolutely. So the fact he's 4th in Norris voting when he missed 20 games tells you how good he is. The following year, 89-90, 76 games, 19 goals, 65 assists, which is 10th overall, 84 points. In the playoffs, 17 games, 5 goals, 12 assists, 17 points. So they went to the final in 88. They went to the final in 1990. Both times, the Edmonton Oilers brought their Stanley Cup dreams to a halt. All-Star game, yes. Norris Trophy, absolutely. First team All-Star and 2nd in Hart voting again. So playing in the era of Wayne Gretzky definitely hurt Bourque's awards. He would probably have won himself a couple of Hart trophies if not for that Wayne Gretzky being so darn good. And of course, that's the Mario Lemieux era as well, right? So the following year, 90-91, it's 76 games again, 21 goals, 73 assists, which is 4th overall, 94 points. In the playoffs, 19 games, 7 goals, 18 assists, 25 points. Just fantastic numbers. All-Star game, yep. Norris Trophy, yep. First team All-Star, sure. 4th in the Hart voting, yes. So again, that's 4 Norris Trophies now for him. He was pretty good at winning Norris Trophies. Then we get into the 91-92 season, 80 games, 21 goals, 60 assists, 81 points. In the playoffs, 3 goals, 6 assists, 9 points. In 12 games, All-Star game, yep. First team All-Star, sure. King Clancy winner, yep. So that's for leadership, and he was 2nd in Norris Trophy voting. So he gets some gentlemanly votes to get him in the top 10 in Lady Byng. King Clancy for his leadership. Really, he could kind of sort of do it all. And the one thing that was standing out at this point was, okay, so they had 2 trips to the Stanley Cup final. They didn't win either time. Is he going to win a Stanley Cup? And so that became the conversation at that time as well. 92-93, 78 games, 19 goals, 63 assists, 82 points. In the playoffs, 1 goal in 4 games. As Boston starts to kind of fall down a bit in the standings now, they did end up being in the they did end up making the playoffs 29 straight years, which is, I do believe, still a record in the National Hockey League. And he was a big part of that. But All-Star game, yep, first team All-Star, sure. 2nd in Norris, yet again, he is 2nd in the Norris voting. So once again, there's a lot more trophies he could have won. He was close. 93-94 plays 72 games with the Bruins, 20 goals, so another 20-goal season. 71 assists, which is 5th overall in the NHL. 91 points in the playoffs, 13 games, 2 goals, 8 assists, 10 points. All-Star game? Sure. Norris Trophy? Absolutely. First team All-Star? Sure. 6th in Hart voting as well. So, not bad. He gets himself in there. He's never a finalist for the Hart outside of the 2 times, or he was 2nd in Hart voting there the 1 time. It's hard to keep track of all this. But just the 1 time he would have been a finalist, but he still gets votes. And he's one of the best players in the league, no argument. 94-95, lockout shortened season. He plays 46 games, 12 goals, 31 assists, 43 points. In the playoffs, he adds 3 assists in 5 games. 2nd team All-Star, 3rd in Norris voting. And if you're wondering, well, where was the All-Star appearance there? Well, this is the thing. There's no All-Star game in 1987 or 1995. Those are the only years he wasn't named to the All-Star team outside of his rookie year, which is odd. You would think that when he's the Calder winner, he might have been thrown in the All-Star game in 1980, but I mean, pretty stacked era. So it is remarkable how many times he was in the All-Star game. 95-96, 82 games, 20 goals, 62 assists, 82 points. Remember, he's into season 17. He's still putting up a point per game as a defenseman, and this is also where the goal scoring is starting to go down in the National Hockey League as well. In the playoffs, in 5 games, he has a goal, 6 assists for 7 points. All-Star game, yep. First team All-Star, absolutely, and 2nd in Norris voting. So 96-97 is a tough year for Boston. 62 games for Bourque, 19 goals, 31 assists, 50 points. This is the year Boston misses the playoffs. There's a lot of infighting too. Bourque wasn't really dragged into that. He did play in the All-Star game. He was 7th in Norris voting. So just playing the 62 games, 50 points, and I think Boston just having an overall miserable season dragged down Bourque standing just a little bit when it came to the voting. 97-98, plays 82 games, 13 goals, 35 assists, 48 points. So his offense is off a bit from where it was, obviously, in his prime, but still, 13 goals from the blue line's not too shabby. In the playoffs, a goal, 4 assists, 5 points in 6 games as Boston gets back into the playoffs, but they weren't a contender. All-Star game, yep, 7th in Norris voting. Yep, second straight year, he's 7th in Norris voting. 98-99, he has a bit of a bounce back. 81 games, 10 goals, 47 assists, 57 points. In the playoffs, 12 games, 1 goal, 9 assists, 10 points. All-Star game, absolutely. Second team All-Star, yes. And he's 3rd in Norris voting. So 99-2000 rolls around. And you could see Boston was going in the wrong direction. Boston really also kind of wanted to do Bourque a solid and get him a Stanley Cup. So there was discussion about Bourque being traded, which to me was sacrilege. I mean, I'm still wearing Ray Bourque jersey. But in 99-2000, he played 65 games for Boston, 10 goals, 28 assists, 38 points. He did play in the All-Star game. But March the 6th, after the All-Star weekend would have been done by about a month, he is traded to the Colorado Avalanche along with Dave Andrechuk for a 2000 first-round pick, Martin Grenier, Samuel Paulson, and Brian Ralston. Now, Ralston, good player. Man, that's a terrible, terrible way to come to the Bruins because you're not replacing Ray Bourque. Nobody was. So he goes to the Avalanche and had quite the debut with them. Plays 14 games after the trade, 8 goals, 6 assists, 14 points. In the playoffs, he has a goal and 8 assists for 9 points in 13 games. He was 7th in Norris voting altogether, but the 52 points in 79 games, not too bad. So 2000-2001, over 2 decades after making his debut with the Boston Bruins, plays 80 games that year for Colorado. So even though early in his career he's missing some games, late in his career he's really not. 7 goals, 52 assists, 59 points. In the playoffs, 21 games, 4 goals, 6 assists, 10 points. And he was a huge part of the reason why the Avalanche end up winning that Stanley Cup. There were other reasons, obviously, as well. There was a stacked team in 01, but having Bourque on the blue line, just ridiculous. So he played in the All-Star game that year, won his Stanley Cup. Thankfully, he finally wins that Stanley Cup, so he could retire happy. First team All-Star, yep, 2nd in Norris voting. Over 2 decades after his debut in the NHL, he is still 2nd in Norris voting. So, to me, I still think he's the best defenseman I've ever seen play. I know there will be a lot of people saying Nick Lidstrom's the best, and I know there's a lot of people who believe Lidstrom. For me, I would go with Bourque. So that's just me. Now, he was co-captain of the team with Middleton in 85 after Terry O'Reilly retired. He became the lone captain for the Bruins in 1988. Interestingly enough, 3 days after the Stanley Cup win, he brought the Stanley Cup on June the 12th, 2001 to Boston for a rally with Boston fans, about 20,000 people in attendance. That's great. That's just typical Ray Bourque. His heart would have been in Boston, but he gave everything he had for Colorado when he was wearing an Avs sweater. So 13 first-team All-Star appearances. That's number 1 NHL all-time. The 19 first or second-team All-Star appearances is second only to somebody named Gordie Howe. So, absolutely fantastic career. 5 Norris trophies only trails Bobby Orr, Doug Harvey, and yes, Nick Lidstrom. 1,169 assists. That's a record for defensemen. I don't think anybody ever gets there again. 410 goals is a record for defensemen. And again, I don't think any defenseman ever hits 400 goals again. The game has essentially changed. So even though we've got now into more of a live puck sort of era we got going on currently in the NHL, but defensemen aren't putting up the kinds of goals that Bourque did. And the consistency is what's absolutely remarkable with him. This 7 goals, that's the only time in his career he didn't get double digits in goals. And he's still 2nd in Norris voting that year. Just remarkable. So again, the no All-Star game appearance in 87 and 85 is because there weren't All-Star games. So from 1981 through 2001, if there was an All-Star game, he was in it. That's 2 decades. He also was the accuracy winner at the All-Star game 8 times. I loved the accuracy. You can take your fastest skater, hardest shot. I didn't care. I was just like, is Bourque up yet? All right, let's watch him school these guys again. And done. He wins. 4 targets and 4 shots. Yep. Absolutely fantastic. I know he had 4 targets and 5 shots a couple of those times as well. It was one of my favorite things about All-Star Weekend at that stage. 1996, he was also the MVP of the All-Star game. So he was at them a lot, he was productive, and he was fun to watch. Now, he did wear Canada's jersey. 1981 at the Canada Cup, he won silver. He won gold in 84 and 87. He was asked to be a part of the 1991 Canada Cup, which we didn't know at the time was going to be the last one. They went to a World Cup of Hockey in 96. But in 91, he opted out. He decided he didn't want to play. And even though Gretzky and Messier were amongst those trying to convince him to play for Team Canada, he just decided, nah. Which, I mean, Canada won gold in 91 anyways without him, but, I mean, if they'd had him, that would have been great. That would have been 3 golds for him. He did play for Canada in the Olympics in 98. There was no medal to be had there. But Ray Bourque was the best at what he did. His 1,612 games played in his career's 13th overall. His 410 goals is 99th on the all-time list. 1,169 assists is 4th on the all-time list. 1,579 points is 11th on the all-time list. In the playoffs, 214 games, 41 goals, 139 assists, 180 points. Remarkably long career. Fantastic defenseman. Again, to me, I think he's the best I've ever seen. Prove me wrong, everybody else. But hey, that's the fun part is when it's an opinion-based piece, I totally get other people saying, well, I think the best is. So maybe I have to do that again. The best defenseman I've seen in my time watching hockey. Get into those kinds of lists this summer. Don't be surprised when that happens. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.